Oh, Vigneswaya Namaha. Namaste, friends. I am Gurti Vishweswara Rao and already introduced myself in my earlier videos correspond to the chapters in my book. The book's title is Bhagavad Gita, A Commoner's Viewpoint. This is a summary at the end of the first 6 chapters in Bhagavad Gita. I will try to make it brief. Before we start on this summary, let us first recognize that the message in all chapters received from Bhagavan Sri Krishna is universal in nature and is applicable to human mankind irrespective of position and prosperity. Having made a start with a well-wishing to all, my attempt here is to wholeheartedly recollect the holy messages given so far by divine teacher Bhagavan Sri Krishna in these first 6 chapters. As we already know that Bhagavan has started his holy messages actually from chapter 2 Sankhya Yoga. Before that, what we must remember is that Arjuna might have got into Vishada, that is, became sorrowful about whether to go into the epic war with his cousins or not. Here we need to remember, we had discussed in an earlier video that Arjuna's Vishada is momentary because he is an accomplished person in his own right, whereas we are mere ordinary mortals. We get into Vishada or will get a feeling of helplessness and sorrow innumerable number of times in our lives. In many such situations, we may even lose self-faith and even get into doubt about God's existence also. Of course, it is a natural and poor thought process of a weak mind like that of the Gajendra in Gajendra Mosham in Mahabhagavatam of Vedavyasa. We know our this deficiency and we decided to be more circumspect and cautious and also decided to be submissive to Bhagavan Sri Krishna with all full faith and receive his sublime message. We also understood that Bhagavan took the role of Vishwaguru in reality to enlighten poor souls like us only. These were our initial thoughts. Now let us keep away these initial thoughts from our minds and try in right earnest to replay in our minds the core of Bhagavan's message received so far. It is informative here. We also have opinion of a few great personalities on Bhagavan's message in these chapters. For instance, Gandhiji's suggestion for all is to carefully make a study of the first 3 chapters in the Gita. And these first 3 chapters amply, that is sufficiently, give everybody in a nutshell what is propounded and advocated in a greater detail and different angles, different viewpoints by Bhagavan in the remaining chapters. We can see Gandhiji has given so much importance to these initial chapters. Bal Gangadhar Tilak, he has said, Gita advocates for the performance of karma, that is action in this world, even after the actor has achieved the highest union with the supreme deity by jnana, that is knowledge, and bhakti, that is devotion. In short, he says, it amounts to saying message in Gita equals to confluence or union of jnana plus bhakti plus karma. Of course, here karma means nishkam karma. So we see that Tilak has rightly stressed the prime importance of karma, that is action. Dr. Madan Mohan Malaviya expressed a similar opinion. Gita contains the essence of Vedas and Upanishads, and it preaches the threefold way of jnana, karma and bhakti, that is knowledge, action and devotion. So what we need to understand from these great persons is the valuable aspect of action, that is karma, that is the right action while leading our common lives. Sri Aurobindo said, the whole object of the first 6 chapters of the Gita is to synthesize 2 methods, that is of Sankhya Yoga and second one is Karma Yoga. Ordinarily, they are supposed to be diverse and even opposite. He continues to say, but both had the same goal or aim, that is self-realization and the union of the human soul with the highest supreme. This truth we already received from Bhagavan Sri Krishna in this sloka of 5th chapter, Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Sannyasa Karma Yogasya, Nisresa Karaubhav, Tayostu Karma Sannyasat, Karma Yogo Visashyate. That is, Bhagavan said, renunciation of action by Sankhya Yogi and yoga of action by Karma Yogi both lead to the same goal. In fact, Bhagavan continues to say, of the two, performance of action is superior to the renunciation of action. How much benevolent he is. We are grateful to him for showering on us his grace and showing us the right path to fulfill or justify our mortal lives. Hearing to Sri Aurobindo further, Sri Aurobindo said, Sankhya Yoga leads a person to entire passivity and to sannyasa. Here, entire passivity literally means renunciation of all actions. What Sri Aurobindo has said here about abstaining from all actions by a Sankhya Yogi, one should make a right interpretation. These words should be interpreted on a literally higher spiritual plane, because everybody is obligated, as we know, to get engaged in all activities, basic activities. This is obvious for us. Then how to interpret these words? In this respect, let us remind ourselves of Bhagavan Sri Krishna's words. What he has said in the following two slokas in chapter 5, Karma Sannyasa Yoga. First sloka reads, Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavit pasyan srunvan srusan jagran asanan gachan swapan swasan pralapan visrujan grunnan unmishan nimshannapi indriyani indriyardheshu vartanti idhariyan. Meaning, Bhagavan said in these slokas, a Sankhya Yogi also has to go through actions: seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, walking, sleeping, breathing, speaking, all such, and maybe many more actions. But he is a man of wisdom, and with control over his self, his thoughts always rest on Paramatma. So the prime aspect here we have to understand is, he remains, a Sankhya Yogi remains a mere witness to all these activities. With this meaning, a Sankhya Yogi is a perfect sannyasi, as narrated by Sri Aurobindo. In earlier videos, we also reminded ourselves of lives of great Sankhya or Jnana Yogis of our times, and how much hardships they subjected themselves to, and had gone through in their lives before they became enlightened personalities, and also they became lead kind lights for us and to all the mankind. In this connection, we should remember what Bhagavan has said in 4th chapter, Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, through this sloka. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam sujamyam. Bhagavan declared that in times of need, he incarnates himself in this mortal world to safeguard dharma and wipe out adharma. So we are convinced that all these great personalities we see around us from time to time must be none other than Paramatma's incarnations in this mortal world. Because the difficulty for a mere mortal in achieving such a sublime state of a Sankhya Yogi, Bhagavan has with all consideration advocated the practice of Karma Yoga for mere mortals like us. Thus, Bhagavan impressed upon us that one can achieve the same goal while going through the normal daily actions in our lives. Here, friends, the awe-inspiring life of Dharmavyadha described in Aranya Parva Mahabharata must come to our minds. Let us have a strong conviction that this is the only way or path to understand the real essence of this life as a human being and tend towards self-realization. Here, before we proceed forward, we need to question ourselves, what is that real essence of this life? What is that reality we need to understand? What is that wisdom we have acquired for fulfillment of this mortal life? We have this doubt because we are commoners and are leading common mundane lives, suffering in troubled times and rejoicing in happy moments, getting entangled in this vicious circle of happenings and battered by all mental emotions and aberrations. For instance, about self-realization, Sri Ramana Maharshi has said in his Upadesara, in his achieving liberation or self-realization, Maharshi said, one need to perform actions without any expectation in return. That is, must perform Nishkam Karma and need to perform actions as worship to God Almighty. About self-knowledge or self-realization, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa has said, this pure Atman alone is our real nature. What is jnana? It is to know one's own self and keep the mind in it. It is to know that the pure Atman. These are his words which are quite illuminating. Adi Shankaracharya has said in his Vivek Chudamani, the first step to have self-realization is to nurture or develop extreme disinterest by a mortal in all perishable things and develop serenity, self-control, patience and renunciation of all actions with desire. He further said in his Atma Bodha, in a person, the body, mind and the intellect are basically inert or inactive. They derive energy and vitality from the dynamism or power of consciousness or power of Atma lying within a soul. These instruments, body, mind and intellect, then become dynamic and active, just as we all derive energy from the light of the sun and thereby get into all activity. In this regard, let us remember how Bhagavan explained in the beginning of the second chapter, Sankhya Yoga itself, about the basic tenets of self-realization and the values of this mortal life. Let us remember some of these prime aspects here. Bhagavan has started in this sloka, Dehinosmin yada dehe, Kaumaram yavanam jara, tadha dehantar praptihi, dheras tatra namuhyati. He said in this sloka, we need to realize the truth about this mortal life. What is the truth? Just as this body passes into childhood, youth, and then old age, so also as a mortal passes into another body after death. Similar to change of clothes a person does from old ones to new ones. A wise man does not grieve at this imminent and impending event of death. In another sloka, Antavanta ime dehaha, nitya sokta sarirana, anasino prameyasya, tasma dudhyasva bharata. Bhagavan has said, every mortal is destined to reach an end in this life. A death in this mortal life pertains only to the visible body. But there exists within this body an eternal, imperishable and incomprehensible self, or Atma, which is the indweller. What we could understand is that this indweller is none other than an Amsa, or part of Paramatma. In this sloka, Nasato vichite bhavaha, nabhavo vichite satha, ubhyorvi dushtontah, tanayos tattva darsibhi. Meaning, Sat, that is the real, never ends. And on the other hand, the unreal, that is Asat, never exists, since it is continually dying and changing. So what is real and what is unreal? The real is that something which remains unchanged all through, and it is nothing other than the pure awareness and consciousness, or the Atma, the self lying within all. In the following sloka, Bhagavan very effectively explained about Sat, the real. Avinasitu tadvidhi, yana sarvamidam tatam, vinasam avyaya sasya, na kasyat kartum arhati. The Sat, which is indestructible and imperishable, is all pervading. It is none other than God's effervescence with which all this Jagat, this whole universe, is filled with. Bhagavan further said, all temporary objects which are conditioned by the law of cause and effect belongs to Asat, that is the unreal. This truth, how clearly Bhagavan explained in the following sloka also. Avyaktadhini bhutani, vyaktamajjhani bharata, avyaktanidhananyeva, tatra ka paridavana. Meaning, that which is not in the beginning and which will not be in the end, but which seemingly exists in the present, is unreal. With this wisdom, and knowing this true nature of the body and the inner soul, and knowing the unreal forms, unreal happenings of the phenomenal world, we need to come to terms with ourselves always, that is by discarding the defeatist or weak mentality, and we need to face all situations with a balance of mind and equanimity. This is what Bhagavan implied all through his advice. To our fortune, after listening to divine teacher Sri Krishna about the reality of this mortal life, we are at the threshold of a sublime awakening. With this initiation into a new awakening and with Bhagavan's detailed exposition on Karma Yoga, or path of action, our objective must be to know how to be a true Karma Yogi. Why the word true Karma Yogi here? Because the practice is more intricate than what it appears to be outwardly. We might have definitely understood the divine teacher's message, but we should be sincere in not only understanding, but also in making right attempt to put it in practice. That is exactly the reason why at this stage we are now in this mood of self-introspection on how much we really understood Bhagavan's message received so far on this Karma Yoga. In the last video of chapter 6, Atma Sanyama Yoga, from an overall perception of Bhagavan's message, we finally arrived at the conclusion that to be on the path of a Karma Yogi, one should acquire the following attributes. That is, first one is Nishkam Karma, that is action without an expectation on the end result. Second one is no doership, there is no feeling of ownership to the action, that is engaging oneself in action without attachment. Third one is equanimity, that is feeling a balanced attitude towards the outcomes of an action, that is balanced attitude towards success or failure, profit or loss, and such twin possibilities. Last one is important one. Fourth one, control of mind, body and indriya. Let us quickly recap how deftly, lucidly and vividly Bhagavan explained about these qualities within these 6 chapters. For example, in chapter 2 Sankhya Yoga itself, Bhagavan has almost mentioned about all these qualities. About Nishkam Karma, Bhagavan said in this sloka of Sankhya Yoga, which became so familiar to us, Karmanye vadikaraste, ma phaleshu kadachana, Ma karma phala heturbuhu mate sangostva karmani. The essence of the message in this sloka is one has no control on the outcome of her or his actions, and one has to perform actions without entertaining any desire on its result. If you remember, we initially had some reservations about this aspect because it is natural for anybody to suppose that once he puts in right effort, he will have control over his actions. But immediately, we came to full agreement with this Bhagavan's message that nobody will have control on the outcome of his actions, and we have to accept the result from an action whether it is advantageous or otherwise. We also have many other slokas where Bhagavan reiterated about his Nishkam karma and its positive influence on a person. In the same chapter, Bhagavan said, Vihai kaman yas sarvan, pumam sarth nispruha, nirmamo nirankara, sa santi madhigachati. That man who abandons all desires attains peace, and who is free from attachment to desires is pure. About the feeling of no doership, we had the essential message in 4th chapter, Jnana Karma Sannyas Yoga, from this familiar sloka. Karmanya karmaya pasyet, akarmanya karmaya, sa buddhiman manusheshu, sa yukta kusna karmakot. That is, he who recognizes inaction in action and action in inaction is wise. He is a yogi and a true performer of all actions. Also, in the following sloka of the same Jnana Karma Sannyas Yoga, Bhagavan said, Tyaktva karma phala sangam, nityatutto nirasriha, karmanyabhi pravuttopi, naivi kinchit karoti saha. In this sloka, Bhagavan has said, a person is not considered to be a doer of action when he does actions by giving up attachment to the fruits of actions. Here we also understand that Nishkam karma leads to no doership also. In this sloka 5th chapter, Karma Sannyas Yoga, he mentioned about this attribute of no doership. Yoga yukto visuddhatma, vijitatma jitendriya, sarvabhutatma bhutatma, kurvanapi nalipyate. Bhagavan has said, one who performs actions with pure devotion is free of doership, though he is acting. All these messages from Bhagavan vividly conveys about this non-doership. About the quality of equanimity also, Bhagavan referred to in many slokas. In the 2nd chapter Sankhya Yoga, he has said, Sukhadukke same krutva, labha labho jaya jayo, tato yuddha yujjasva, naivam papmavapsisi. That is, a man is pure, who treats equally, that alike, pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat. In the same chapter, we have the following message in this sloka. Yogastha kur karmani, sangam tyaktva dhananjaya, siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva, samaptam yoga uchyate. Here he has said, abandoning attachment and remaining even-minded, both in success and failure, is yoga. In another sloka, yes sarvatra nabhisneha, tattat prapi subhasubham, nabhinandat nadveshti, tasya prajna pratishtata. Bhagavan conveyed us, who faces all challenges in life, auspicious or inauspicious, with a balanced mind, that is not getting vexed nor showing joy, is wise. From Bhagavan's these messages, we understand how much Bhagavan rated this quality of equanimity. As you know, life by its very nature is a mixture of good and bad. The perfected or wise person need to experience both of them with equal detachment. That is what Bhagavan has said. The last attribute of Karma Yogi is control of mind, body and indriyas. Bhagavan stresses this aspect very thoroughly and assiduously, tirelessly, in almost all the chapters we listen to. We here try to remember some of them. In this sloka of 2nd chapter Sankhya Yoga, Bhagavan has said, Nasti buddhir ayuktasya, nacha yuktasya bhavana, nacha bhavayetas shantihi, asantasya kutas sukham. For the man whose mind is not under his control, there will be no nishyatmaka buddhi, that is steady mind, and there will be no peace. To such a person who has no peace, how can there be any happiness? In this sloka of 3rd chapter Karma Yoga, Bhagavan conveyed us, Ishvindriyani manasa, niyamya rabhati arjuna, karmendrei karma yogam, asaktasya visishyate. Bhagavan said in this sloka, the person who restrains his senses with his mind and directs his organs of action to work with no feeling of attachment is indeed superior. We received these messages and these attributes appear to be easy to understand, but we need to question about, are these attributes and qualities easy to develop in our daily life? The same question we raised in the last video of chapter 6, Atma Sanyam Yoga. Practice of Nishkam Karma and doing every action in this life with a balanced mind and with a feeling of detachment and exercising control over mind and indriyas, are these easy to achieve? But soon comes to our mind Bhagavan's significant message in the 6th chapter, Atma Samyam Yoga. What is that message? One needs to lift himself by one's own self. In this sloka, Bhagavan has said, Uddared Atmanatmanam, Atmanam Asadiyat, Atmeva Hatmano Bandhu, Atmeva Ripuratmanaha. In reality, this message is the epitome of all messages what Bhagavan taught in these chapters. There is no choice before us but to acknowledge this truth and bow our heads before Paramatma for revealing this stark reality. Acknowledging this truth, we also made earlier a resolve during the presentation in the last video to get over this attitude of weakness and defeatist mentality and to get over this usual habit of dependence in all times of need on some miracle or help from unknown quarters. We also should remember with how much persistence and perseverance Bhagavan elaborated in these chapters on ill effects that may befall on a person with no control over mind, indriyas and intellect. In the following two slokas in Sankhya Yoga, Bhagavan has given us a clear caution. The first sloka reads, Dhyaito Vishyan Pumsaha Sangaste Shopjayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodhobjayate. The second sloka reads, Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Sammohat Smriti Vibhramaha Smriti Bhramsat Buddhinashaha Buddhinasat Pranasyati. In these slokas, Bhagavan so picturesquely portrayed the fate of a person caught under the wheel of desires. When a man thinks of objects, from attachment to objects arises desires. From desire, if not fulfilled, arises anger. From anger comes delusion. From delusion to loss of memory. From the loss of memory to the destruction of intelligence. From destruction of intelligence to total destruction of a person. In this sloka of same chapter, Bhagavan further said, Indriya Sendriya Sadhe Ragadveshau Vyavastitau Tayorna Vasamagachet Tau Hasya Paripantinau. With the meaning, the raga and dvesha, that is desire and hatred that the senses in a person feel for their objects are inevitable, but one should not allow them to pressurize him and put him under their sway or control because they are his stark or glaring enemies. Here, we must remember Bhagavan's message in this sloka, which we have in 3rd chapter Karma Yoga. Prakrutehe kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha hankar vimudhatma karta hamiti manyate. With the meaning, all actions performed by mortals are due to their prakriti-born gunas, that is qualities. These are sattva, rajas and tamas. But a person, because of his delusion, thinks I am the doer. The absolute and formless Atma or the self within has really nothing to do with the actions. Tamoguna is an indicator of laziness, impure thoughts and harmful attitude. Rajoguna stands for aggression, selfishness and activity. Satvika guna is characterized by a calm mind, pure acts and thoughts. These gunas are generally present in different proportions in a person and is the reason for exhibition of different behavioral tendencies by the mortals in this world. We will be learning more from Bhagavan about these gunas in the coming chapters. In the light of this knowledge about Prakriti-born gunas or qualities, Bhagavan's message in the sloka of 3rd chapter Karma Yoga is significant. Kamayesha Krodaheshaha Rajoguna Samadbhavaha Mahasano Mahapapma Vidhyanamiha Vairinam. Bhagavan reveals in this sloka, it is desire and the resulting anger are born out of quality of rajas or rajoguna. This quality is all sinful and all devouring. He cautioned us to know this guna as the fierce foe or enemy in this mortal world. In this connection, Bhagavan also intimated us in the following sloka of the same chapter Karma Yoga. Indriyani paranyahu indriyabhya param manah manasastu parabuddhi yobuddhe parasastu saha. Bhagavan reveals the senses are superior to the body. Superior to the senses is the mind. Superior to the mind is intellect. And one who is superior even to the intellect is he, the self, that is Atma. So Bhagavan advises, thus knowing this truth, one should control the usual self, that is body, mind and indriyas, by the real self, that is the awareness or the inner consciousness or the Atma, and destroy the enemy lying within in the form of desire. For achieving that control, we had received the vital remedial message from Bhagavan in the following sloka of 6th chapter, Atma Sanyam Yoga. Yogi injita sasatam, Atmanam rahastitha, ekaki atacittatma, nirasira pragraha. The message is, we need to practice dhyana, that is meditation, constantly try to concentrate our minds, remaining in solitude and aiming at withdrawal of body, indriyas and mind from the worldly objects. In the last video of chapter 6, Atma Sanyam Yoga, we humbly accepted this Bhagavan's advice with all humility and without expressing our usual feelings of a wavering mind and without any inhibition. If you remember, Bhagavan, like a true teacher, hinted about the importance of this meditation at the last 5th chapter, that is Karma Sannyas Yoga itself. This is about the required meditative posture for doing jhana, that is meditation. Carrying the same meaning, Bhagavan in 6th chapter Atma Sanyam Yoga also has elaborated very vividly about the required meditative posture and its practice. In Atma Sanyam Yoga, we also received Bhagavan's reply to Arjuna's doubt about the difficulty in controlling the mind and fixing it in meditation. Bhagavan knows that this may be mainly our doubt also, and rightly clarified, the medicine to surmount this difficulty in controlling our wavering minds is, one is constant practice, second is a firm determination, and third, with a sense of vairagya and detachment. Like a real teacher, and with a lot of consideration about the possible pitfalls that we get into during this meditative path, Bhagavan very rightly cautioned about the need for maintaining proper eating and sleeping habits. We also had in this 6th chapter Atma Sanyam Yoga Bhagavan's assurance that by continued practice of meditation, one attains withdrawal of mind and intellect from the worldly objects, reaches a state of quietude, realizes union with the Supreme Atma, and enjoys the eternal and atindriya, that is supersensuous bliss. Jhana or meditation leads to union of soul and body with Paramatma. It keeps the mind always calm and free of thoughts, and thus closes a person nearer to the God Almighty. It helps a person to reach the yogic state about which Bhagavan mentioned in the following sloka of Sankhya Yoga. Asha Brahmi Sthiti Partha Nainam Prapi Vimuhyati Sthitva Syamanta Kalepi Brahma Nirvana Murchati. That is, in this sloka Bhagavan explained about the Brahmi state or yogic state. In this state, Bhagavan says, a person is free of moha or delusion. Being firmly established in this state, one attains liberation, that is oneness with Paramatma, and enjoys Brahmananda, that is eternal bliss. If you remember, sage Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, where the sutras are more familiarly known as aphorisms, being short and crisp, they mainly speak of the yogic state above, that is the highest state which a yogi wishes to attain. Starting from this sutra in the first pada, that is Samadhi pada, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, that is with the meaning, yoga is nothing but restraining the chitta, that is the mind, from taking various vrittis, that is forms and thoughts. About this sutra we discussed in the earlier video of chapter 2 Sankhya Yoga, and therein we also refer to Swami Vivekananda's commentary on the Yoga Sutra. In the 4 padas or sections in the Yoga Sutra, sage Patanjali very succinctly and concisely gave the steps to reach the yogic state. It is educative here to have a brief meaning to some sutras with respect to the jhana or meditation which Bhagavan educated for a person to become a karma yogi. Let us here refer only to few sutras in different padas and sections. This sutra in sadhana pada explains about the 8 limbs of yoga. Yama niyamasana pranayama pratyahara dharana dhyana samadha yostavangani. As you see, dhyana is one limb of yoga out of the 8 limbs. The 8 limbs are yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana and samadhi. The first one, yama, is the practice of qualities such as non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing. Internal and external purification, contentment, study and worship of God come under niyama. Asana is the posture for meditation which must be firm and pleasant. We already had a good description of the required jhana posture from Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Pratyahara means control of organs, Jnanendriya and Karmendriya. Jnanendriya means the organs of perception, vision, taste, touch, smell and sound. Karmendriya means organs of action, speech, hands, legs and genitals and rectum. By Pratyahara, when the organs are controlled, every muscle and nerve will be under control, and yogi can control all feelings and doings. Pranayama is the controlling of the vital forces of the body. Its practice is threefold: one by which we draw the breath inwards, another by which we exhale, and the third one when the breath is held in the lungs. By pranayama, covering of sattvic guna by rajas and tamas is removed. After this covering has been removed, one is able to concentrate the mind, and then the mind becomes fit for dharana. This sutra of Vibhutapada explains about dharana. Desabandhas chittasya dharana. Dharana means concentrating the mind on one particular object either inside or outside the body and keeping it in that state. This is followed by dhyana, that is meditation, where all forms or objects are given up, leading to samadhi. Sanyama is explained in this sutra of Vibhutapada. Trayam ekatra sanyamaha, meaning the three, dharana, dhyana and samadhi, if practiced with regard to one object, is sanyama. When a man can direct his mind to any particular object and fix it there and then keep it there for a long time, this is sanyama. Samadhi is from this sutra in Vibhutapada. Tajjayat prajna lokaha. That is by conquest of that is by conquest of sanyama, then comes light of knowledge. Meaning, when one has succeeded in making the sanyama, all powers come under his control. This sutra in Vibhutapada is a note of warning also given by sage Patanjali. Tasya bhumishu vinyogaha. This sutra says the above practice should be done in stages, not to attempt to go too fast in the practice. In any case, from this short portrayal of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, we have got an understanding of yoga practice. It may not be a thorough one, but sufficient to get a glimpse of the intricacies of the dhyana or meditation which Bhagavan Sri Krishna had referred to in these first six chapters. We also got enlightened by Bhagavan through the following sloka in 6th chapter, Atma Sanyama Yoga, where he has also directed us to develop an attitude of bhakti, that is devotion towards the God Almighty, while traversing on the path of action. The sloka reads, Yoginamapi sarvesham madgate nantaratmana saddhavan bhajte yomam same yukta tamo mataha. Meaning, Bhagavan is urging us, that is encouraging us to develop bhakti, that is devotion, and stay connected with Paramatma with a steady and firm faith on Him. Finally, what is the sublime and divine message we received from Bhagavan Sri Krishna in these first 6 chapters? Before that, let us understand that Bhagavan might have said that Karma Yoga is easy to follow, but it must be understood and it must be driven into our minds at this nascent or blossoming stage that a life of a Karma Yogi also requires a purified and strict disciplined way of life, following Nishkam Karma with an attitude of equanimity and with self-restrictions on the thought streams or thought processes and emotions. So, the divine message, what we received from Bhagavan, is to be on the path of action or Karma Yoga in this mortal life, we need to engage ourselves in dhyana, the meditation, whenever possible. And we need to repose faith in Paramatma and develop bhakti, that is devotion towards the Supreme. And thus, in essence, to try to become a Sankhya Yogi within our own little homes while leading our normal lives. This ends my sum up on the first 6 chapters in Bhagavad Gita. Before I leave, friends, I wish to say a few words about Madhurashtakam, a devotional hymn composed by Sri Vallabhacharya in Sanskrit. Sri Vallabhacharya is a saint and philosopher of 15th century who originally belonged to Andhra region in South India and established his philosophy of Pushti Marga, that is the path of grace, in North India, and according to which a devotee sees only Sri Krishna and none other than Lord Krishna everywhere. His other literary works in Sanskrit include the Vyasa Sutra Bhashya, Jaimini Sutra Bhashya, Bhagavata Subhodhini Tika, and Siddhanta Rahasya. The word Ashtakam is derived from the Sanskrit word Ashta, meaning 8. Madhurashtakam contains just 8 hymns, that is 8 stanzas only. Madhurashtakam, as the name itself indicates, is filled with madhuryam or sweetness. There is no other composition in Sanskrit which is so enchanting and soul soothing as Madhurashtakam. The composition is a pinnacle of bhakti towards Lord Krishna. All the 8 stanzas are filled with full of love and devotion to Krishna in the form of a transcendental or divine singing by a devotee. The devotee sings as if the Lord is before him and as if he himself is in a trance, attracted by the beauty of Bhagavan Sri Krishna in everything that belongs to the Lord. The beautiful face, the beautiful lips, the beautiful eyes, the beautiful smile, the Lord's beautiful stride. For the devotee, even the Lord's murali or flute is beautiful. The Lord's hands and the Lord's legs are beautiful. And Lord's every anuvu, every atom is beautiful in the devotee's mind. I try to sing a few lines of the Ashtakam here. Adharam madhuram, vadanam madhuram, nayanam madhuram, hasitam madhuram, hrudayam madhuram, gamanam madhuram, madhuradhipate, akhilam madhuram, madhuradhipate, akhilam madhuram, madhuram madhuram, madhuram madhuram, madhuram madhuram, madhuram madhuram, vachanam madhuram, charitam madhuram, vasanam madhuram, valitam madhuram, chalitam madhuram, भ्रमितं मधुरं मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरं 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 वेणुर्मधुरो रेणुर्मधुरः पाणिर्मधुरः पादौ मधुरौ नृत्यं मधुरं सख्यं मधुरं मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरं मधुराधिपते अखिलं मधुरं 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 मधुरं. With this note of Bhagavan's Madhuryam, I remain.